Welcome back to another sci-fi episode where psychology and finances collide. We will wrap up in today's episode digital assets and estate planning. We have Emily Baggett, attorney here at Redstone Arsenal. She's going to continue to help us dissect and understand how to best digitally plan our estate and our digital assets. So we're going to pick up where we left off with. We started touching on social media, but I know, Emily, you have to give your attorney disclaimer, so go right on.
This required disclaimer, anything that I state today are my views only, and they do not necessarily represent the views of DoD or its components. And if I do mention these products or services during the podcast, DoD does not approve, endorse, or authorize that company, its products, or services.
So as I look at what we would talk about with social media, I don't spend too much time with it. So I might be thinking with my generation, why would anyone want access to someone else's Facebook or Instagram or X? And the list could go on and on. And we touched on it a little bit. Some of that could have been monetized, especially with YouTube and different accounts there. But you also have other factors involved where someone might have pictures that were not yet downloaded and available for that person. But Facebook has an interesting menu where you can go and you can, under personal details, you can go in and select account ownership and control. And then you can select memorialization, where you can decide what's going to happen to your main Facebook profile after you pass away. And then you just select that person to manage the account. So that's just an example of one social media account. So what would you say in the digital estate planning with these social media accounts?
Well, I think Facebook is an example of how it lets you go ahead and make that decision, and how that can kind of come about sometimes is, if you've used your Facebook, I tell folks, have you used it as kind of a scrapbook? Are there pictures there that maybe folks want to go back? And I used mine for a time period that when I was a prosecutor, I wrote little court snippets of funny things that happened in the courtroom in the event I ever wanted to go back and write a book or something. But my friends thought they were funny of things that happened. I kind of used it that way. And so sometimes, I think about, I'd like to memorialize that because some of that stuff was kind of funny. That's a reason maybe I'd want to. Sometimes people, you have to think, are you an owner of another account, not just your personal, but do you have another account that you maybe need to not necessarily memorialize, but maybe your homeowners association has one and you were an admin or something. Do you need to make sure you're off that? And you need to make sure that you've got somebody else on that. Think about those things as well. Do you have any other accounts that you maybe need to make sure that you're going to be off of? Instagram is a meta company as well, so they allow you to do the same thing as social media. The big thing about the Facebook and Instagram, it's allowing you to make that decision point, not allowing your family members to make it for you, not allowing them. I have some family members, we had this huge discussion at a family dinner one time. Some family members say it's creepy. Why is it left up? Some other family members were like, no, it needs to be left up. That's where all of our memories are. That's the person that took all the pictures. Huge debate. But my discussion point was, well, if y'all go in right now and decide, then you can make your own decision. So
it just wouldn't be an adequate death if family members aren't left bickering, right? That's just the norm. And it's sad to say out loud, but you bring up some good points there, that it's also about what other family members could benefit from in that manner as well. And it's the same with shopping. We already talked about the store accounts, like Chick-fil-A rewards, Lego rewards. Again, no Army endorsement implied. We're just talking about things that we've both researched and see how we could transfer some of those things. It's the same thing with digital assets and shopping. And again, no Army endorsement implied when I mention Amazon, Etsy, eBay, Shein, Walmart. There are so many huge platforms where you can rack up all of these member benefits or monetary cash that is just waiting to be spent. I know if I were to look at my Amazon rewards, my girls are always saying, hey, I want to spend that, because they don't think of it as true money, but I do. No, I'm not going to give that to you because that is money. But if something did happen to me, I would want them to have access to that. Why would anyone say, okay, it's just $150. I don't need to go through all the rigmarole and effort just to get that pulled over. Well, what if you just listed that? Again, you have your password organizer, your password manager, whatever you choose to use. That's still $150 that could benefit someone.
Right. And besides just the $150 benefiting, you have to think that's an online presence that you have. And any of your online presence, like we talked about Facebook, but on the social media, say you're like LinkedIn and what I call your hobby-based social medias, any of those you need to list. They need to be closed out. Again, with your shopping, some of those as well, because anytime you have anytime you have any type of presence, as a prosecutor, I've seen this, there are some identity theft issues potentially that can happen. And that is one of the worst things when you have a family member walk in and file a police report and say, we've had a family member die, here's the identity theft, and then you're sitting there trying to figure all that out. I had a friend whose mom's identity theft got stolen, but she ended up on dating websites. And that's how she kept getting recycled. And for the first couple of years, it really hurt the family, obviously, to keep seeing their mom used in that way. After about year 5, now it's just a family joke. But you have to think about like that. Identity theft occurs, but do you want to see your mom or dad pop up on a dating website and their picture being used in that way? Because can that happen? Absolutely. It happens to people all the time. But you have to think, where are ways that people can get those identities? Also, like the Etsy's and eBay's, did you sell things on those websites? Were you maybe even you just sold like your hobby on Etsy, sold little things, or maybe on eBay, you went to garage sales and picked things up and resold them or whatever you did. But you have to think, is there money sitting in those accounts potentially?
Right. I love how you really pulled in the concept of online presence, because sometimes those things really just need to be cinched up and left alone. You gave a hilarious example in the financial symposium. And let's just say it, we're all adults. Some people will have some accounts that, whether you view them as acceptable or unacceptable or morally or immorally gaining or profitable, those platforms do exist. And so, yes, it would be nice for your family member to close down some of those sites so that your dignity can be maintained even upon your death. And that also includes subscriptions and memberships. We don't want more money coming out of your accounts before everything goes through probate and all those things. That's just less money in the estate that's left there. There is a way through the inactive account manager, and one of the examples you gave was through Google, where you could go and plan what would happen to your data if you didn't need to use your Google account anymore. And that's a big storehouse of information.
When you think about, like, as far as Google, and then when because a lot of people do use Google when you use, because who doesn't use like Google Photos, for example, Google Docs? A lot of people do use Google Photos as a popular one where people do store their photos. And that is such a huge family legacy for so many folks, where the photos are stored. Because used to, we would have photo albums sitting around, and that is the number one thing family members start looking for after someone passes. Why? Because if there's going to be a funeral, the funeral home's going to say, do you have a picture that you would like for us to put on our website, or when they walk into the funeral home on the screen for when folks walk in, or on the guide for the funeral, the program for the funeral or whatever? That's the first thing. Or then used to them when they had newspapers for the obituary, do you want a picture with the obituary? And then folks are going to be like, where are the pictures? And we had a family member die. We knew we had the pictures, but it was calling everyone in the family, the 3 cousins. Did you take that picture? Who took that picture? Well, where is it? Is it who has it on which? What everybody had Google Photos. Which family Google Photo Drive is it on? Because we have a shared Google Photo. Which one is it? And so we're all in there trying to find it. But think about that for your family. But going back to Google, you can go. They have what's called Inactive Account Manager. You can set that up. That way a person is assigned to be the person that in the event that you pass away, you've already assigned someone there. So they go in and log in and say that you are that person. You provide the death certificate, and then you're allowed access to anything as far as what's on those Google accounts, which relates back to also if you have any type of Android device as well.
Right. And so going from Android to Apple, there's a legacy contact within Apple. And I am proud to say, I don't know, proud is the right word, but I actually have transitioned from an Android to an Apple phone. And as I was setting up my phone, the legacy contact came through, and it was quite simple to assign my daughter as the legacy contact. And it also gave you the option, let's say you don't have a close family member with an Apple phone and you want to still be able to provide that to an Android user, you can print the QR code for that ability to have that. So it was a really neat experience to see firsthand. It just requires a little bit of work, and total time that it took me to do that, 2 different things within my phone, it took me a total of 1 minute to complete that process. And listen, for those who may be technologically challenged, grab your 6-year-old granddaughter or 6-year-old niece or nephew, and they will show you how to get there. Maybe not 6. Maybe you want to find a teenager, but you would be surprised. We could probably have a 6-year-old that could show you how to get to your legacy contact information.
They actually, my nephew at 5 could actually do it. So, but the one thing about the legacy contact that you don't think about that most folks want off the phone are usually folks use it as an address book. I think my dad's the only person in America that still uses the Rolodex, and he literally cuts the address when someone changes their address and then staples it to their old Rolodex card. But anyway, most normal people use your contacts in your phone. So if someone passes away and say it's your spouse, or do you really know your spouse's second cousin's address and phone number? I mean, they're probably close. Maybe they are close to them. Maybe you do. But there are probably family members of your spouse that you don't know. How do you get in touch with those folks? I mean, if you don't have access to their phone, I mean, if you do have access to their phone, but if there for some reason you don't, then you've got to be able to get into that phone. And the legacy contacts allows you to have the data on that phone. So you can contact folks and allow that to happen. And that is the easiest way with Apple. And we all know that Apple has very high privacy rights, is to have that set up. And I just recommend for any Apple product that you have, set it up for all your devices.
Right, because I understand they are pretty staunch and hard-nosed when it comes to privacy. And we want that, right? So we do have to follow the rules and, as you say, the terms and agreements of anything that we're doing. And so to kind of sum it all up, Emily, you talk about this digital estate plan and you provide 5 different points on deciding what to do with your digital estate plan. So do you want to transfer the digital asset? Do you want to distribute them, preserve them, destruct them, or neglect them? And these are options. These are all choices that we have. So could you talk a little bit more about that as we close up, as well as the executor?
On the digital estate plan, obviously, if you do nothing with it, some of these things, that's the neglect. It's just it'll just sit there. By some, again, terms in the agreement, it's going to destruct itself. If you don't do anything with it and you pass away by virtue of your death, it's going to destruct. That goes to where, like I said, some of those hobby-based social medias especially. Some of the things you do want to preserve. What kind of things do you want to preserve? Those, again, are those especially like photos, anything like that you do want to make sure that they are around. The distribution. Are there ones that you want to distribute so that they can be around for others? You think about, again, that kind of goes to what I call about that online digital property. Do you want to make sure it's just distributed to a family member or someone that can handle that for you. And then the transfer of maybe, are you going to transfer the asset to someone so that they can have it? Or, that again goes back to what we talked about in episode 1, again, with the hotel points, maybe kind of the airline miles, something like that. How are you going to manage that? The executor, as far as how you can actually, the executor in Alabama, it's called personal representative. When you have one, as far as your will, lots of times it's a family member, and we kind of touched about that. Most of the time, family members can handle most of this. It's not that it's one of those kind of things that at this point in life, I think most folks that serve as executors or personal representative deal with this. We all deal with kind of digital components daily in our own lives. So I think it's something that most folks can handle. But if you get into things that we talked about previously, like with folks that have a heavy influence, so like with digital things, that you might want to think about considering someone that does specifically deal with digital things and having a separate digital executor. That's something, you just have to make those decisions for yourself. What are those things you really have to consider? And that's where I always say, when you have an estate plan, it's not just an attorney. It's your attorney, it's your financial planner, like obviously great folks like you. It's the people that you trust in your circle of friends. All those folks come together to help you make the best decisions. And that's who your trusted circle of friends, those are the ones that are going to make you make the best estate plan. And estate plan is not just after death. Estate planning documents do, help during life as well.
Right. And what a great way to close out this series, because you are essentially assisting your family members with having access. And access is what folks, especially in a state of grief, it seems so simple to say, okay, well, all you have to do, hey, Mom, all you have to do is just get into his account, right? I mean, surely you'll be able to pay my tuition. Just get into his account. And then all of a sudden, oh my goodness, the realization that password has changed. And now we have to wait, or maybe that tuition is due in 3 days, but you don't have the 3 days. There could just be a number of issues there. But what you were saying is it takes a village to give you that access. It's not just one individual person. So, number one, taking it upon yourself to take some level of action with your digital asset estate plan today. Maybe just starting the conversation with all your family members. If you all own iPhones, getting out where the first time at the dinner table you will allow phones, everyone gets out their phones and creates a legacy contact. I'm sure your kids would appreciate that one time that you get to bring out your phone at the dinner table. Or just starting the conversation with those friends and family members that you do trust. And hey, what are some ideas to go with this? But you closed up in the financial symposium. You said not only is the digital asset estate plan simplifying access for family members, but it's preserving your legacy and it's helping you avoid legal complications. So with that, thank you, Emily, for being our guest through this 3-part series. And if you found this helpful, please remember to rate and review wherever you listen to the podcast.